Tanse, good evening. I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. In the late 1950s and 60s, the RCMP and Quebec Provincial Police killed around 1,000 sled dogs in Nunavik as a form of forced assimilation against the Inuit people. On Saturday, the federal government apologized for its role in the killings of the dogs. A similar apology was given by the Quebec government in 2011. Elders in the community of Kangiksuyuak accepted the apology. As APTN Savannah Craig reports, many believe it's a step towards reconciliation.
I am sorry. I'm sorry. Please forgive us.
Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Gary Ananda Sangari provided the historic apology for the federal government's role in the killing of Inuit sled dogs between the 1950s and the 1960s in the community of Kangiksuyuak in Nunavik in northern Quebec. The apology was well received, with Ananda Sangari receiving a standing ovation and being embraced by elders.
You can't really move forward until the party who did you wrong admits they're wrong. And then to ask for forgiveness was quite powerful. And it was even more powerful when the elders accepted his apology.
The killing of sled dogs devastated their population, forcing Inuit into a sedentary lifestyle and taking away part of their autonomy. The massacre contributed towards mental illness, addiction, and intergenerational trauma, still felt by many in the community.
I've heard from elders of the horror of the mass killing of the dogs that occurred in this community. The Khimit were shot, burnt in a pile on the ice in front of the owners, and the remains were left there for the winter, forcing the community to be reminded daily of the violence and trauma of losing their dogs.
Many believe this is a step forward in reconciliation and are looking to revitalize Nunavik's culture and sled dog population, including dog musher Tivi Dupuis.
Kind of like the federal day schools and the residential schools, the dog slaughter is just another aspect of it, and this is maybe a part of it, part of reconciling with a bigger machine that was a cause to how we live today.
Dupuis says raising a dog team requires the community to come together.
I'm fairly new to this. It's been about 3 years that I even got on my cousin's team, started building my own team, so we shared the tasks where I learned from him, I learned from my neighbors, so George, Kyle, whose dogs you see here. I learned from them and eventually started my own team.
The federal government has launched $45 million to promote the revitalization of communities in Nunavik.
Gary, on behalf of Nunavik and the RCMP, we accept your apology.
Makiyavik President Pita Atami initially requested $75 million.
That 45 million sounds like a lot of money, but when you think about it, and with the cost of living up here and the hundreds of people that lost their sled dogs, it's not going to go very far in terms of compensation for the people that will receive funds. We want them to come up with the proper funds in order to have a proper healing process done. So we are still working with the Government of Canada.
Makiyavik is still deciding how it will utilize these funds to its full potential. But it will be using some of the funds to support mushers like Dupuis.
We're lucky that we're resilient people. We have resilient people that are willing to help teach the next generations on how to survive. This is a big part of survival. A lot of this too is mental health. Like, things aren't going well at home. Some people use hockey, soccer, sports, but this is like a second family, It's amazing. I have a small team. Some guys have bigger teams. So it's definitely rewarding.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Kangiksuyuak.
A man has died over the weekend after Winnipeg police shot him multiple times. It happened Sunday evening near the Unicity Shopping Center on the city's west side. According to Winnipeg police, officers were called to a shopping center for a retail theft incident. On Sunday at around 5:09 p.m., it was announced over police radio that an officer had been stabbed and a man had been shot. A video circulating on social media depicts two officers firing multiple shots at a man who falls to the ground near a transit bus stop. The man was transported to hospital and pronounced dead. The senior officer who was stabbed in the neck was treated for his injuries. The Independent Investigations Unit, or IIU, is now investigating the incident. WPS Acting Chief Art Stannard spoke at a press conference late Sunday evening.
The event is unfolding right now, so very limited information was that our officers were dealing with a male in the area of a bus shelter. And during this interaction, the male stabbed one of our officers in the throat with an edged weapon. At this time, officers told the male to drop his weapons, and shortly after, a use of force encounter happened, where officers discharged their weapons. CPR was given to the injured male by police, including the injured police officer. They were both conveyed to hospital. Our member is being treated at the hospital for neck injuries, throat injuries, and the suspect was pronounced deceased. We are aware of videos online, and we caution the public that they do not show the entire incident. I've said this before, and I'll say this again. Our members do not come to work to take a life.
The Assembly of First Nations annual December meeting is coming up in Ottawa in a week. The Chiefs are fresh from voting down a multi-billion-dollar deal with the federal government to revamp the First Nations child welfare system. So what is the focus of this meeting next week? To help us answer that, here is National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations, Cindy Woodhouse Nepinak. National Chief Cindy Woodhouse Nepinak, thank you so much for joining us. My first question for you is, things didn't go the way you wanted to in October. What are you hoping to achieve in the meeting next week?
Oh, certainly. Look, I think child welfare is always a priority. I think that it's an ongoing tragedy in this country. And I think that we have to continue. I'm so proud of First Nations and this entire country. We had record numbers of participation at that Special Chiefs Assembly on child welfare, and I think that it shows that everybody's vested in this to get it right. And it shows that we need to do more work and that the federal government needs to come back to the table with an expanded mandate. We've sent a letter to the minister asking Canada to expand their mandate to make sure that we continue to push on this very important issue. It just affects too many people. It affects every First Nations family, and I think that we've seen the engagement from First Nations and Canadians from coast to coast to coast of this long overdue discussion that hasn't happened before. And I think that people never really want to talk about it, but it has to be talked about and it has to be fixed. And of course, it's still before the courts, and it's going to have to be dealt with one way or another.
Former National Chief Sean Atleo resigned after failing to pass an education deal with Canada, and now Chiefs voted against the child welfare deal. Do you think this is a message to the AFN that you shouldn't be trying to negotiate big agreements?
Look, I think that it's been in the courts. AFN had taken this back in 2007. It's always hard to have these national discussions, and I think that we have to continue. I think as the AFN, it's a political body that brings chiefs together to talk about really difficult issues from time to time, and I think that this is another issue that needs to be addressed one way or another. It can't go unaddressed. It's been far too long and far too hurtful towards First Nations families, and we've heard that loud and clear in Calgary, and look, First Nations want to get this right.
National Chief, there's a resolution calling for the AFN to apologize for comments the organization made against child welfare agencies that it accused of leading a campaign to defeat the final settlement agreement. Will you apologize? Will the AFN apologize for this?
Look, I think that there's a lot of work that has been done on this file, and we appreciate all the experts from right across the country. And I think that this requires further discussion amongst leadership And certainly I know that right now First Nations are not in the driver's seat of child welfare. All funding continues to go to provinces and territories across this country, and First Nations have very little say. And so, I think it requires a lot of discussion about this important issue.
Switching gears here, National Chief, with the recent news of another First Nations teen being shot by police last week in Norway House, what do you think needs to be changed to prevent more of these kinds of tragedies?
Look, my condolences to the family in Norway House. My condolence also to the young boy shot and killed in Alberta, and the 12 other families, just as in recent months that we've just started to even count. It's appalling to see this happen in this day and age here in Canada, and we need to begin to start tracking that data. And my condolences as well to the family last night that I'd seen. I'd seen a video circulating on social media, and my heart goes out to all those people. John Wells' mother, who, we'd passed a resolution to support that family very recently in Calgary. It's just so prevalent. It's just rampant on what's happening to First Nations people and Indigenous people in this country when it comes to police shootings and killings of our people, and then justifying themselves that it's okay. And it's not okay. And I think that First Nations have to begin to take a different look and find a different course of action on this. I know that we'll be speaking to our executive. We have been already on solutions going forward, and strong statements that will be coming from our executive momentarily on this issue, because when is enough enough? And it continues to happen to our people over and over again. And I can't imagine the mothers and the fathers and the grandparents having to get those terrible calls that their loved ones have been shot. It's so unacceptable, and First Nations are getting tired of hearing about it. It's hurtful to each and every one of us, and it's a black eye to Canada.
National Chief Woodhouse Nepinak, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
After a century, the salmon have returned to the Pitt River in BC. That story when we come back in about 3 minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back. One of the largest salmon restoration projects in Western Canada has just been completed, and once again, salmon are flourishing in the area. APTN's Tina House has this story.
Just a 45-minute boat ride up the Pitt River is the Upper Pitt River watershed. For close to 100 years, logging development in the area cut off Pitt River to Pitt Lake, which prevented salmon from spawning in this remote area. But now, thanks to a partnership between the Katzie First Nation, the BC Parks Foundation, and numerous sponsors, water is now flowing to the Red Slough, where salmon are once again making a huge comeback.
To have been here a couple years ago and to walk around this area and to see the stagnant water and the dead salmon and just the feeling of like, see this river cut off from its natural path. And then to be here today, seeing salmon coming back, seeing the life, coming back to this area.
Rick Bailey is proud of the work that has been put in over the last 6 years, and with the population of salmon on a sharp decrease over the years, he says this restoration project is crucial.
We can see these side channels along the river, along the road. Very little salmon in there. If some of them didn't have any. But this year when we went up to open the pipe at Red Slough, we took a little tour around and checked out all the channels and streams, and each and every one of them had a lot of salmon there, and that was like, wow.
In 2021, the BC Parks Foundation purchased and protected 733 acres in the Upper Pitt River watershed. Since then, debris has been removed and water pipes have been installed, reconnecting these water channels once again. Bailey says salmon are vital to his community in so many ways, and he grew up fishing in this area.
It was being out there. I don't know, just something spiritual, something cultural that was important to us, is important to us.
Tina House, APTN National News, Pitt Meadows.
A Northern Quebec police service has taken down a Christmas tree people are calling insensitive and disrespectful. This picture was posted to social media last week. It shows a Christmas tree with ornaments made with empty alcohol bottles that was allegedly made by Nunavik Police Service staff stationed in Umiujak in northern Quebec. On social media, one community member said, "Please don't disrespect the communities you work in. This is so distasteful and hurtful." Another person said the Christmas tree was racist and unprofessional. In a statement to APTN News, Deputy Chief of Operations with NPS Jean-Francois Morin said the tree was removed as soon as we were informed. A disciplinary investigation was immediately launched and a captain is currently assigned to the investigation. At this point, we can't speak of the motivation of the ones who made the tree as the investigation is still ongoing. APTN News reached out to Umiujak's Town Hall staff for a statement for the Christmas tree and have yet to hear back. The Yukon legislature has voted in favor of proposed changes to the territory's electoral boundaries, raising the total districts in the territory from 19 to 21. The changes were recommended by an independent electoral commission. 2 new electoral boundaries will be added to Whitehorse: the Vuntut-Gwich'in riding in northern Yukon, the smallest riding in Canada, and by population will remain its own separate riding. The commission previously recommended combining the riding with the riding for Dawson City, which was met with pushback from the Vuntut-Gwich'in. Other changes include combining the Casca communities of Ross River and Watson Lake combined into one riding along with the community of Faro. The changes will be in effect after the next territorial election. The Tali-Gotli-Gotli-Ne in Norman Wells in the Northwest Territories are one step closer to becoming self-governing. The Tali-Gotli-Gotli-Ne government represents the Satu, Dene, and Métis of Norman Wells. Last week, it signed a draft final self-agreement with the territorial and federal governments. Self-government agreements affirm Indigenous peoples' right to make decisions on things like programs, services, and laws based on their unique culture. Officials say the agreement requires community ratification before it can be legally binding. Last week, Métis Nation Saskatchewan held a Tea and Talk event with the Public Health Agency of Canada about tuberculosis, also known as TB. Globally, TB was once considered eradicated, but cases have spiked in Canada since 2020. While Canada is a low incidence country, Indigenous populations have higher TB rates than non-Indigenous communities. In 100,000 cases of active TB across Canada, 2 are Métis, 21 are First Nation, and 136 are Inuit. Canadian health officials say they want to reduce TB cases by 90%. Krista Whitehead, a policy analyst with the Public Health Agency of Canada, says people may not even know they have TB.
Because of the history of colonialism and racism and lack of trust in the healthcare system, that has a really big factor as well, because people aren't comfortable to go to the doctor.
Risk factors for TB include poor nutrition and overcrowded housing. The Public Health Agency is currently seeking feedback to develop a strategy to eliminate TB in high-risk regions. Casey Adams has unveiled her new art project at a gallery in Winnipeg. Our Sierra Bettens takes us on a tour when we come back. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Along Highway 6 on the outskirts of Winnipeg, Manitoba is where Dieter Beardy caught a glimpse of this coyote. You have quite the eagle eye there, Dieter. Thanks for the photo. If you would like to see our next photo of the day, send us your pictures to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east, St. John 6, Charlottetown 7. Happy Valley, Goose Bay 2, Inuujawak -9. Saguenay 4, Val-d'Or 0. 6 in Ottawa, Sault Ste. Marie 3. Thunder Bay -1, Sioux Lookout -4. -5 at Norway House, Thompson -10. -6 in Gimli, Dauphin -11. -12 in Estevan, Swift Current -10. -15 in La Ronge, Buffalo Narrows, partly cloudy at -16. -13 in High Level, Peace River -11. -10 in Medicine Hat, -7 in Edmonton. 5 in Campbell River, Kamloops -2. Sand Spit 6, Smithers -12. -32 in Old Crow and Sun, Rock River -28. -24 in Yellowknife, Norman Wells -10. -20 in Palutuck, Sax Harbor -20 as well. -15 in Baker Lake, Cambridge Bay -21. And Iqaluit -19, Aglulik -15. A new exhibition by artist Casey Adams is creating a dialogue between past, present, and future generations. Reporter Sierra Bettens brings you to Adams' 7 Generations Gallery opening in Winnipeg.
In her latest exhibition, Cree, Anishinaabe, and English artist Casey Adams connects generations. Portraits of youth from Adams' community, the Fisher River Cree Nation, bring the walls to life.
She created the photos in 7 layers. So those 7 layers represent 7 generations, the concept of 7 generations.
The 7 Generations exhibition opened Thursday at the University of Winnipeg's Gallery 1C03. Adams created the portrait series titled We Are Still Here after the unmarked graves of 215 children were discovered at the Kamloops Indian Residential School. It features ancestor regalia loaned from the Manitoba Museum to connect past and present generations.
They're surrounded by regalia, actually, ancestor regalia, to really solidify that idea of looking to the ancestors. The ancestors, you know, have been dreaming of us, thinking about us in the present.
Nicole Patterson and her son Gibson Travers were featured in Adams' documentary, Relational Making. In the film, Adams interviews mothers of powwow dancers from the Fisher River Cree Nation about making regalia for their children.
I did make his outfit with a lot of help from community members, elders. His colors are incorporated into his outfit. I just finished this last night, so I was beating like a mad woman trying to finish his headpiece.
My colors are blue, yellow, red.
What's your spirit name?
Hunting bear.
While Adams could not attend the opening due to illness, her son Mac shared her words.
She is so grateful for this opportunity to showcase this beautiful work of the ancestors. This exhibition is a love letter to her community.
7 Generations is on display at the University of Winnipeg's Gallery 1C03 from now until February 14th. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thank you, Sierra. That's your evening newscast for this Monday, November 25th. We'll be back again for your daytime newscast. Be sure to join us then. From everyone at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again. Ekse.